All right. Um, so today was a bit more of a frustrating day. Um, I think it was one, a lack of preparation last night. Um, though I did feel as though I prepared a decent watch list yesterday. Unfortunately, the tickers that I had selected just none of them really did anything. Majority of them were red. Um, and they were very choppy. Um, Forced a couple of trades today. Overall, just disappointed. I didn't expect another massive day like I had yesterday, but I did feel comfortable pushing it a bit today with just that continued personal momentum. So I did push it a bit, but ended up only green 170 bucks, 170.74. Um, I was up about 450 at my peak, 500 I believe. Unfortunately, I just kept giving back. I kept giving back the funds, unfortunately, um, which was really, really frustrating. So um, that was that was today. So let's just get into the trades. The first one was APPS. I took this. This was not on my radar at all. Someone had called it out in the Discord, um, somewhere in here, and it just felt way too extended for me to feel comfortable. So I put it on my watch list and maintained side eye on it. As it kind of chopped around and consolidated in here, formed this really nice pennant on the 1 minute. I recognized this really nice dragonfly doji, and then the break here of 7. I took the break of 7, smaller size. I was at 500 shares, and it ended up pushing up higher, but it felt really weak. It wasn't pushing as quickly as I wanted it to, so I just cut it. It ended up flushing, and then it pushed through high of day at that point. But didn't really hold all that strong. Wow, excuse me. Yeah, I mean, it was already severely extended. If we look at the 30 minute was extended. It did have this nice little consolidation, which is where I took a position after this spinning top and then the break up. But just not my typical setup. So, yeah, I mean, luckily I was able to extract a couple bucks out of it, but again, not my typical setup. BMEA, this I gave back a lot. I gave this back a lot, and unfortunately, I did not have this on my watch list. This was my biggest winner of the day, but also the most frustrating ticker of the day for me, considering I believe I had this. I added this to my watch list and then I took it off and said, you know what, it's not ready. I'll just wait until it breaks out up here, which was really, really stupid considering everything that I was green on yesterday was one where we had a small close just over the 9 SMA on the daily, and then we got a gap up and a break. And that's exactly what this was today. And unfortunately, I just did not have this on my primary watch list. So I took this through this consolidation underneath of this downtrend resistance. I took a small starter and then added size at the break of that pennant structure. Was watching it hold VWAP and this trendline support. Thought to myself, all right, I'll take a position here on this push, pull, push, potentially break out here. I'll take a small starter, 500 shares, recognizing that I am risking below 285. So about 30, 40 bucks. Was happy with that. And then if it broke out if and when it broke out, I was going to add size, which is exactly what I did. I watched it chop around in here. It held the 50 on the 1 minute, and then once it broke, even though it was a lack of volume, a third of that candle was my position. I just felt, this is breaking. I need to take the position. Looks really strong from a daily, from a daily, but also an intraday perspective. The 30-minute was rock solid with this pennant right there. So I took it. It pushed and it moved beautifully. I had 500 shares at 298, 500 shares at 303 between the two 250s. And then once this, I added at 305 after we got the spinning top. And I thought we were going to potentially get some more, but it was just too heavy up there. And I cut the rest at 303. As this broke down, I started to add again. Willing to risk this 295 level. Once it broke down below 295, I cut it, got bottom ticked, and then it kind of chopped around sideways. I started to add again for the break of this downtrend resistance. It perked up very, very briefly above $3, up to 302, and then flushed, and I got caught in the flush, and I was down a couple bucks there. Then chopped around sideways, and I did not get involved there. I waited until the 3 break. I bought the 3 break right here. It flushed again. I cut it. Then it started to pull back, and I started to add again through here, looking for the hold of this $3 level, and it ended up flushing, and I cut it, and I ended up going up 250 to up 150 on this ticker today, which was very, very frustrating. So the 30-minute, I liked this hammer candle for the inside bar, and that's what kind of drove me to start adding in here at this $3 hold, looking for the break of this candle high, which was 301. And then the pushback through high of day. This daily structure is beautiful. I don't think this is going to go tomorrow. Definitely going to have it on my radar. But I would expect an inside bar tomorrow to form, and then potentially Friday get the push, since Thursday the market is closed. DGXX, this one I swung overnight a portion, and this just pissed me off significantly. So this was one that it still looks like it has a lot of continuation in it, the 4-hour perspective as well, and then the daily just looks like it wants that 52-week high. I started adding through this consolidation, and then into in after hours into the close at 8 p.m. Thought to myself, all right, the bid is starting to stick and creep. I'm gonna just cut. I think I threw 1,000 shares out. I cut it. It ended up filling me for 450, and then the bid was down at 283, 282, 283. I can't remember, and I just sat on what I had. This morning it chopped around a ton, and I held on to everything. It picked up a little bit here and then flushed, and I thought to myself, damn, I'm probably gonna get rocked. So I was holding 1,550 shares, and there was no bid at the open. So I just started to cut what I could. I cut it all almost entirely in the first 1 minute. Cut it in 2 minutes. It then creeped up a bit, and here I got a little impatient, and I thought to myself, all right, like I have conviction with this thing. I feel very, very strongly that this is going to go, but I wish I was holding on to my initial shares, because I would have been green on the day instead of red. But this looks like it may actually flip red to green. So I bought at the high of daybreak, got a decent fill, and then it flushed and I cut it. And I thought to myself, I should probably be waiting to buy until it breaks yesterday's high right here, which was 288. But instead, I thought this was a decent enough base on the 1 minute perspective to provide enough confirmation to start another position, and unfortunately, I just got rocked. So, ended up losing $50 on that, and I took down 120 on that ticker. Really, really frustrating. Should have just waited for the high of daybreak or the pre-market high break, but unfortunately, I was impatient and it caught me. EVGO, this was a decent winner. I don't believe I gave back any. No, I didn't. But this was a decent winner. I was wanting more out of this thing. Really nice cup and handle here on the daily, with a nice gap to fill up to 6 area. So I had this on my radar. I did not buy in at the open, even though from a 4-hour perspective it was pretty nice. We just got all these spinning top / dojis that pulled back to the 9 SMA. The 30-minute was what had me a little concerned, with the 9 converging with the 20. It popped nicely, and I took this little ascending triangle break at 464. Got a great fill, 1,000 shares. It pushed up really, really nicely up to 480. I was getting really, really greedy, and I had limit orders up in the 490s, looking for that push to the gap. But it unfortunately didn't make it up there, so I started to scale as this started to fade a bit. And with this selling pressure, I thought to myself, you know what, I've seen this too many times to where I don't cut it and I hold and it flushes lower, and then, you know, I could have just gotten out for a decent gain. So I got out, watched it a bit, and then it flushed here hard on this big volume, and I said, all right, I'm done with this. It then chopped around a ton, and I started adding again in this this really nice shelf that was built. And on the 30 minute, just really, really nice structure holding the 9 SMA here through this push and then pull on really low volume. It was wicky up above, which provided me some it felt weak, but I like the bottom wicks through here, and it was definitely a sign of potential weakness up above. So this ended up, I started adding up here as this broke through 467 or 468 level, which was yesterday's high of day. And then it pulled back some more. I added, and I maintained my position. Wasn't very happy about it, but I maintained the position through this consolidation here because it was holding this trend line support. Consolidated really nicely, contracted, and then popped right here with a little bit of volume, nothing much. And then once it tapped 472 and pulled back, I thought to myself, all right, this just doesn't have it. I'm going to start cutting it, and I cut it entirely. Ended up with $100 on the day on this ticker. Nothing crazy. I would love to say that this is going to go tomorrow, but this feels extremely weak now. Whoa, BMEA, what happened here? Offering? Proposed public offering. Damn. Alright, well that's off my radar. That is now off my radar. Wow. Okay. So that was EVGO. Gall. This was a decent little scalp here. Wish I held a little longer. This 30-minute was just a rock solid structure. You had this really nice push, pullback with two really nice hammer candles, closing above VWAP and tapping, just soaking right off the 9 SMA. We got this break above right here of the prior candle high and hold the VWAP. And on the 1 minute on the lower time frame, we got this really nice break of this really nice contraction along VWAP. Added in this candle 500 shares, then it popped really quickly. I wasn't able to get a good fill, and I took 44. Got a little hesitant, and I wasn't sure if this was going to push higher or that much higher. So I said, all right, well, instead of watching this go below and dropping, I'm just going to cut half because I don't feel comfortable up here with that fill. And then I just started to scale out through here. Unfortunately, I scaled out pretty quickly. I had a 239 and 240 entry, and it popped all the way up to 260. So, I could have extracted a couple bucks out of this, but instead I only got 62, excuse me. And then I was watching it here for this break right there, but towards the end of the day, I just was super frustrated with myself in that, I gave back a lot on BMEA, and I was just getting chopped out of a ton of tickers. So instead of taking more trades, I thought to myself, you know what, I'm just going to sit on the sidelines, wait for something that's basically guaranteed. And if nothing pops up, then nothing pops up. I'm just going to call it a day. Hoover. This one, I was just looking for some continuation. It was holding above the 4-hour 9 SMA. 30-minute curled through. It had this really nice ascending triangle here. Right there at 198. Come on. 198. Ascending triangle. Come on. Jesus Christ. So, there we go. So I was watching this ascending triangle break. I added 197, small starter, just to see if this could break. And then once it did break 199, I was going to slam some size. It ended up flushing and breaking down right here, and I cut it through 193. Got a crappy fill. I thought to myself, man, I'm out $20. It's not really all that much. It did break down through this support trend line from a structural perspective, but it is still holding VWAP. And as soon as I cut it, I thought to myself, man, this is probably not the best exit that you can have. I probably should stay patient. But in hindsight, it worked out in my favor. But from a learning perspective, a part of me thinks I probably should have just continued to hold there, see if it broke down below VWAP, and then once it broke below VWAP, then to cut it for, it would have been a little bit more of a loss, probably would have gotten 30, 40 bucks in losses, but, if this would have held VWAP and curled through, I could have maintained that 197 average, and then even added potentially through, but I didn't. So that was Hoover. INEO. This was kind of the one that really put me over the edge into the end of day, where I just was like, you know what, enough's enough, I'm done. We were seeing some pops into the close, and this one just had really, really nice structure. I'm not the biggest fan of the 4-hour daily crazy gap back up, but the 30-minute was just grinding the 9 SMA along it all day. Had this really nice pennant here. Had that really nice pennant right there, and I thought to myself, all right, maybe this could break out. So I took a starter in here, 183, as this broke above this 182 level. I think I got a really good fill. Yeah, I did, because I think it was, the ask was at 185, and I slapped it, and I got 183 fill, which was the bid. It chopped around a bit, and then I added 186 as this broke 185. It flushed hard, but then I stayed patient just because it still held this 184 level and the bid wasn't getting dropped. It was holding. And then it was holding the 9 SMA on the 1 minute. So I thought to myself, you know what? Instead of just cutting it, just sit. Let's see if this cooks a little bit longer and reverses back up. And it started to. So instead of holding the full position of 2,500 shares, I thought to myself, you know what? Just in case this does reverse on me, let's just start shedding some of the positions. So I cut some at 187, 186, cut another 500 at 192. I got the top tick, which was pretty sweet. It pushed up, and I had some more selling at 198 at a limit order, but it pulled back. Pulled back here, back to the 9 SMA, and I'm not upset with this fill. I mean, the upper wicks, I should have been a little bit more hesitant with those upper wicks and stayed patient for the break of 194 to actually add again, or a break of a prior 1 minute candle high. But I got impatient as it held the 9 SMA here, and then once it started to break down, I cut it. I stayed patient through here just because this was holding this 182 area, which was the consolidation zone through that time frame. So I thought to myself, all right, it's soaking right off of that. Longs are looking to try and just absorb. Let's see if this can kind of consolidate through 184, 185 here, and then break 186 for the pushback up towards 2. It obviously did not do that. So I cut it at 182 and just watched it fade the rest into close and then in after hours. So KMW. This one I gave back a ton. I was up $120 on this, I believe. Really, really, really nice entries on this. I wish I sized up a little bit more. This was one where we had this daily structure where we have this really nice push and then contraction back to the 9 SMA. And then we had that doji candle yesterday and the gap up. So we got the gap open and it just took right off. SMA's curling right through bullishly. So I started to add relatively early. I wish I added a little earlier and a little bit more size, but I was still a little hesitant. So I added at 376, which was basically the high of daybreak. I was looking for this 376 break. I got 376. It broke, and then I added again at basically the high of daybreak right here. I then started scaling 390, and I was just selling 100 share tranches because I only had 500 shares. Sold another just sub 4, and then it contracted, gave a nice little pullback, healthy pullback back to the 9 SMA on the 1 minute, and then pushed up through this 415 area, which was yesterday's high of day. I sold another 100 shares there. I then got a little, as it started to chop around here, the ask was just, there was a big ask at 425, I believe. I think it was like five, it might have been 10,000 shares. I think it was like 9,400 shares, something like that. So that popped, once this popped, and then someone threw, a seller threw that order in, the bid kind of just got rugged a little bit, and a seller stepped up and pushed it down. And thought to himself, you know what, this is probably just going to fail. The 9 on the 1 minute is looking like it wants to contract back to the 20. I'm just going to cut it. Volumes didn't really come in this big engulfing candle, so I'll just cut it. And if I feel like I want to get back in, I can. If not, I'm not really worried about it. I was up $1.20 on it. It then pushed up through to 445. And I was a little frustrated. I kept it on my radar. It chopped around here, holding yesterday's high of day at 415 and VWAP. And I thought to myself, all right, we got this nice little perk right here through 430. Let's see if this can break. Formed a little 1 minute pennant. I took it. It pulled back, flushed. I cut it. Then I thought to myself, all right, this is holding VWAP. I can get a better entry down here. Let me just start adding down here. So I started adding down here. And I I cut it on the break and then shorted, and it chopped around sideways. And once it perked back up over the 9 SMA here, I cut it and it ended up flushing a little lower, which I did have a limit order down at like 395 or something, 394, 395. And unfortunately, I was not involved for that. I was just super upset with myself that I had basically gone green to red in terms of P&L on the position, and I revenge traded the short, I will admit, but there was a thesis behind it. It broke below that critical level of 415, and then wasn't perking back up through, was still grinding lower underneath of the 9 SMA, and I thought it was an opportunity to just reverse the thesis from long to short and potentially profit from that. I would have if I would have held a little longer, but again, I was just so upset that and the level 2 is getting a little freaky, so I thought to myself, rather than sit here and watch this, watch a buyer step up and break this back through view up, I'm just going to get out for basically break even and call it a day. So that's exactly what I did. NWTN. This was the most frustrating ticker of the day. I don't know why I had so much conviction with this thing. It's an absolute piece of dog shit, and I just stuck with it all day. Was adding and selling and adding and selling through here all day, and just really, really stupid. I mean, it consolidated nicely along 186, but there were no buyers present. There was a really big bid on level 2, but that just got eaten right there with this seller. Just sold right through it, and I ended up cutting it as it broke down. No, it didn't halt, did it? Did it halt? No, it must have just sat there. Yeah, it must have just sat there. There was probably no one selling, because this was one that just wasn't getting. Yeah, it wasn't getting any volume. There was no players present in this today. RBNE. Wow, I didn't even realize that this had this big of a monster move. This one threw me off because of the 4 hour. All the oil names threw me off because of the 4 hour. The 9 SMA converging bearishly. Like, I knew there was an opportunity for it to potentially pop, but I thought it would have been just a quick scalping opportunity. I do understand from a macroeconomic level there are things going on in the world that would provide range in these types in this sector specifically, but from a technical perspective, I was only expecting just a quick pop and then a flush with that 4 hour. So I took a small scalp in here, which ended up paying really well. I took, for this double bottom hold here at 67, I took 200 shares. It then broke above this candle high, or started to. I think it did break and then pulled back, and I slapped it. Got a good fill, and then it perked up right here, and I cut it entirely, just sub 8, and got a really nice $70 scalp from that. That was really, really rock solid. I took it off my radar, even though it met the criteria in terms of the 30-minute perspective, where it was above the 30-minute 9 SMA, and the 30-minute looked unbelievably perfect. And it was above the point of control. Well, I wonder if it was above I wonder if this was the point of control at the time, and then once it broke out here, this is where the volume came in. That's probably what happened. So it was probably just consolidating along the point of control here with this volume node, and then broke up and broke out, and then just took off. Just an absolute moonshot. UAVS, I forced this a ton, just trying to get something out of this, out of nothing. I made a pretty good living off of this yesterday. Oh, look at that. It did perk up in after hours. I had a feeling this just seemed like too deep of a flush, as well as it holding this support trend line. It closed at the 9 SMA. I'm bullish on this thing. I think this was a really healthy pullback here. Not much volume relative to all the buying pressure that we've had. I think this kind of just chops around in here tomorrow above 125, and then at some point, maybe Friday, it perks up back to 150 area or something. So I am very bullish on this ticker, especially with the potential for the U.S. to get involved in this war with Israel and Iran. So we'll see. I was just trying to buy bottoms on this thing. I tried to buy a bottom here. I thought, okay, we got selling pressure here, high selling candle, 1 minute selling candle, but it was less than these two in the open. So I thought to myself, all right, selling pressure is kind of dwindling here. I'll take a stab here, potentially last shakeout and the hold of 136, 137. So I added 138, and then it flushed, and I immediately cut it, $10 loss. It then perked back up and pushed up to VWAP, sold off VWAP with a massive selling candle from a 1 minute perspective intraday, and then just grinded along sideways. Huge, biggest 1 minute candle there, sell off, and then it just formed the point of control here due to that candle above 125. It just held 125. So I started to add through here, added 5,000 shares as the ask was just sitting at 126, and there was a massive buyer at 125. I don't remember what it was at level 2, but it was huge. And I thought to myself, all right, you know what, this has potential for it to just give me a quick scalp, back up to this 132 level where 126, 5,000 shares, that's what, 7 cents. That's an opportunity to make $350 real quick. So I was thinking to myself, you know what, I'll start really sizing into this thing, and if it breaks down below 125, well, then I'm out, $50 to $100 with slippage. If it doesn't, then I have the opportunity for a really nice win. But then it just chopped around, and I thought to myself, this might be a little too rich for my liking, so I'm going to start to scale out. So I scaled out just over half, and I was holding 1,000 shares remaining. And then once it broke down below 125 here, or 126, excuse me, because the bid stepped up to 126, and then once it sold off here, I cut it. That seller got me spooked. Pulled it right back down to 124, absorbed 124, and then pushed through to 130 and to close really, really nice. So that'll be on my radar tomorrow. And then XTIA, this was one that I was going to put on my watch list today, for today, after it closed down below the 9 SMA, but it kind of held, and I thought there was a world where this could just gap up back to the 9 SMA here, which is exactly what it did, especially with that after hours push that it had yesterday, right in there. But I didn't maintain it on my watch list. I put it on my secondary, and I'm a little pissed that I did because I had a really nice win in here, and I gave back a lot over here. But had a decent win right here, and it popped over VWAP. It pulled back, and I thought to myself, all right, you know what? I got to trust the process. I'm just going to buy as soon as this taps VWAP. I got the most amazing fill of my life at 368. And as soon as I slapped, it perked. I bought, it filled, it perked. And it shot right up to 380. So I was up, $100, $50 really quick. And once it started to get closer to 390, I thought, all right, let's take off half. I cut half, held the other half, was looking to get closer to 4 and then push through to 450 maybe, especially with this pre-market candle there. But it flushed, I cut it, and then I tried to re-enter over here for a potential push off of VWAP. No. And then once it curled back through towards the end of day, it broke this little level here at 392. I started adding, and then it flushed on me, and then proceeded to push thereafter. So that was frustrating. Ended up only $50 on this one. Again, 170.74 on the day. Small green day, but it's better than red, and we live to see another day. So that was today.